welcome on in. As you can hear, Spencer listening to the show in real time on his phone. To Courtside with the Courtside with the Cavs on SI, or is it Cavaliers on SI? Is that the official name now?
Yeah, Courtside with Cavs on SI. That's what I'm going by. And hey, you can even pop our new logo up there on the side. Whoa, look at that thing.
I was waiting to do it. I had it keyed up.
Oh yeah, that's the tease right there, baby. That's the
Courtside
tease.
with the Cavs on SI, or Courtside with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI, I think is really the official name. But yeah, we knew there was something in the works. We're glad it's going to hopefully stick, and we are obviously excited to talk all things Cleveland Cavaliers with you guys this morning. Another Wednesday edition of the podcast, and a big one because we do have a game tonight. LeBron James always comes with some fanfare when he's in town.
Oh, does he?
We will preview that with you guys here in the next several minutes together. But Spence, obviously a lot to cover, man. This team is 4-0 for the first time since the post-championship season, 2016-17. I don't know that we should just be saying this is some sort of like divine intervention, where they're going to all of a sudden make some run of the NBA Finals just yet. But certainly some good vibes around this team right now, and the fact that Kenny Atkinson's new system has worked so well through these first four games, I think is something that fans should be excited about.
It is. And everybody wants to do the overreaction thing. That's just what people do as fans, and I understand that. I think you got to keep an even keeled, but also you can be optimistic. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be happy because there's clearly a change in this team. There's more of a loose nature to it. There's more of a creativity and imaginativity to it, if imaginativity is even a word. It's just more... It's less complex? I don't know how you would say it. There's just a lot more involvement from everybody on the floor at the same time. Let's just say that. Less ball domination, more passing, and just in general, there's just more of a sharing the game than we've seen in the past. And it's really fun to watch, especially when it's with the best players who you brought Kenny Atkinson to make work. He said that in his introductory press conference that he wanted to make this core four work together on the floor. And even though he's staggered them, they have played quite a bit together in this season so far. And it seems like Dean Wade's really a glue guy to make it all work. And there's more where that came from. We've got a lot to talk about as far as trends with what Kenny's done with the minutes, with the rotation, who he's staggering together, all of that we can get into. And I think it foreshadows a clear-cut picture of where he's going with this team in that respect.
Yeah, so I kind of want to start with all that's we've seen to this point. Like maybe what has impressed you the most about the start of the Kenny Atkinson era, this offense, because there's a lot of different things. Evan Mobley's play, and different guys stepping into different roles. But maybe what stood out to you the most about this new look Cavs offense. And it's something that you're looking forward to sort of seeing play out the rest of the way.
Everything that we talked about in training camp, man. It's just the way that they're moving off the ball. You're seeing so much of the guards filter to the corners. You're seeing a lot of V-cuts from the top of the key to kind of draw guys. That's the thing. We talk about space, and we always think about static spacers, guys that can shoot on the outside and just stand there. These guys are moving. And when you have a guy like Caris LeVert cutting, there's going to be defenders that go and are drawn towards him. You also have the ability to drive and kick. Darius Garland the other night in New York, and even in the tail end of that game in Washington, was really good at drawing bodies, and he's getting back to himself in that read option DG mode where you don't know if he's going to shoot a floater, you don't know if he's going to lob it up to a big for a dunk, or you don't know if he's going to spray it out for a three. So having those options are big time for a Kenny Atkinson offense that's looking to keep you on your toes and get you shifting. And I think for Kenny, seeing them pass the ball and move it and shift defense instead of dribbling the ball and shift defense is big. Because when you pass the ball the way they do and they know where their guys are, their next spots, it's hard to defend that. And when you have 4 or 5 threats on the floor at all times, you're going to eventually see a double on one of those core 4. We saw it on Evan Mobley, and I don't think we've seen much of that on Evan Mobley in the past, but If he's drawing 2, then you got Donovan waiting, you got Darius waiting, and Jarrett Allen. By God, can we talk about this guy? Because he's not getting any love, and I don't know why. He just is kind of like the odd man out in the conversation of, wow, this is an amazing core 4, when Jarrett's probably been the most consistent out of everybody in that bunch.
Yeah, I know you wrote that down on our sort of planning sheet that you really wanted to wax
with expletives.
about Jarrett Allen, because he has been pretty phenomenal. And we know what he means, I think, from like a heart and soul standpoint to this team on the defensive end in particular. But yeah, like his consistencies on the offensive end of the floor are massive as well. We can certainly talk more about him. And for me, I mean, I think it does start with just like the Evan Mobley evolution. But I actually want to highlight Darius Garland here for a second because and this will maybe lead into the next part of this conversation because I know Donovan Mitchell had a quote the other night. He has kept the receipts in regards to what people had to say about Darius Garland. But Darius has been really, really good the last 2 games in particular. 9 of 11 from the floor against Washington, 4 of 5 from 3. He had 23 points. And then against the Knicks, a team that we know is always kind of a bugaboo for this Cavaliers team. Granted, they're still trying to sort of figure some things out. On Monday, 12 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3, and he finishes with 34 points, which is a high mark for the season, and just a phenomenal effort from him. I think basically what Donovan Mitchell said after the game was that anybody that was, talking trash about Darius Garland and saying that he wasn't a good player anymore, he was basically saying like, this is who he is. And if that was your stance back then, stay on your side. Like, don't come back and say that he's good now. Now, I want to be clear. Like, I think you and I have had conversations, in-depth conversations at that, about whether or not Donovan and Darius are a good fit together, like moving forward. And I think a lot of that just centers around the idea that it's hard in this league to win when you have 2 undersized guards as sort of like the focal point on the outside in a league dominated by big, 6'5" wings that are so versatile. A guy like Jason Tatum comes to mind. Like that stuff, that's just kind of the nature of the league. So you don't see a lot of teams with the makeup of what the Cavs have at the guard position in particular going and winning championships. But talking about the fit of those 2 is different than just straight up trashing Darius Garland and not thinking he's a good player. I have maintained that there was a lot of context and a lot of reasons why Darius, I think, struggled both of the last 2 years. And really 2 years ago, his numbers were pretty much on par with what they were the season prior when he was an all-star. But I didn't think that like he just was somehow not a good player anymore and that he couldn't get back to an all-star level. And I think that we've seen that in these last 2 games. Like that player is still very, very much in there. And the context of last year with the jaw injury and just different things that kind of played out. And he has dealt with injuries each of the last 2 years. I think that he, is still, I think that he was still, I always kind of felt like he was going to be he still had that in him. And it was just kind of about getting that full potential pulled out of him. So yeah, like I think if you're questioning the fit still, I get that. Right now it's working great and there shouldn't be anything to question right now. But I don't know that it ever needed to get to a point where we just thought like Darius Garland wasn't good anymore. I think he still has a chance to be a really good player in this league. And that's why I felt like his value was still there if you were going to trade him at some point. And I think it's important to like get back to that point where, and that was another part of the conversation too, was like, if you are going to trade Darius Garland at some point, last year was maybe the lowest his value has been. Now, if he's going to keep playing at this level, like you have options. Maybe he works now and you don't have to think about trading him. But if you do get to a point where you got to trade him, at least now he's trending in the direction where like his value can be back to what it used to be several years ago. So I just think it's important to make that distinction because there were certainly people who were saying that Darius, didn't have it anymore. And I don't think that this show or you or I ever kind of got to that point, even though I'm putting this up here. Luther O'Neal's accusing me of trying to clean up the.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Team Luther on this one.
You think I wasn't talking trash about Darius Garland? Come on,
not talking trash. Not talking trash. But it cracks me up how there's a collective amnesia. How people completely forgot this guy was an all-star and think he just lost it. You know what happened? He became a little predictable. Because in the offense, he was running high pick and rolls all the time with the same bigs and doing the same packet passes. And yeah, he wasn't making shots. That's partly on him. And it wasn't all just because of what happened last year. But what happened last year, do you remember how he started? And then all of that stuff came into play, running into Kristaps Porzingis' hip that was sharp as nails and ending up breaking his face, essentially. The year before that, getting poked in the eye. Last year, after the jaw thing happened, and then losing 12 pounds, and then having a personal matter, that stuff, he admitted in interviews that he lost the joy for the game. It's not like guys just lose talent. It's just such an asinine argument. I don't understand why people just had this moment of amnesia, as I'm saying, where they completely forgot that Darius can play the game. And you know something about that game in New York, too. One, it's a team that the Cavs have notoriously struggled against. And to pull that out in the way he did, the thing that Kenny pointed out and George pointed out and Donovan pointed out, it wasn't even the fact that he was knocking down threes and making his floaters and making the good reads. It was his defense, dude. It was the way that he switched on to Jalen Brunson after Dean Wade got screened, got down there and blocked the dude in crunch time. That stuff is big time. And you know, everyone there are a good amount, I want to say everyone because that's generalizing, but most of the people in my mentions when I posted preseason about Darius Garland being a defensive focal point this year laughed at me.
We did
and
talk about that, yeah.
What's happened in the first few games is the way he's playing the passing lanes, the way he's kind of standing up to guys, firming up a little bit. He's not a huge dude, but he's definitely put some pounds on, and he's enough to be aggressive on ball pressure, just like Donovan, just like Isaac Okoro, because they have Mobley and Allen behind them, as we've seen this model. That's nothing new. This is the same defensive Cavalier team. There might be a little bit more aggression up top, and there's more of an emphasis to rebound and run a little bit more. But this is the same defensive team. What's changed? It's like people forget. I don't get it. And I know this is regular season, October basketball. We all want to overreact, and maybe I am jumping the gun a little bit here. But I think this is completely sustainable. And there's no reason, especially when you look at some of the other things we're going to talk about with Kenny Atkinson's strategy, that are going to push him forward.
Well, yeah, and like I said, that's why my biggest question with Darius was always about just like how him and Donovan play together. And if they can figure that out, then like, yeah, to your point, maybe the sky's the limit. Or I guess as Jameis Winston said, the sky can't be the limit when there's people on the moon.
On the moon. What a bar.
Yeah,
what a bar.
It really was. So I don't know. Maybe the sky isn't the limit. Maybe there's no limit to the potential of those two playing together if they actually can sort of play off of each other. And I think it is fair to have those conversations and bring that up as we have you and I together. But yeah, the idea that like that Darius Garland just suddenly wasn't a good basketball player anymore. I always thought that was a little bit of an out there stance because we saw this guy be an all-star. We heard what Steph Curry said about him several years ago when he called him like one of the next great point guards in this game. Like people who know the sport or around this sport watched him several years ago and understood like the trajectory that he was on. And then like, yeah, certain things maybe stunted that a little bit. The addition of Donovan Mitchell, maybe the coach that they had at the time wasn't the right fit. And now you're seeing with Kenny Atkinson, a guy who can tap into what he does well. And even like you said, some increased opportunities on the defensive end of the floor. Like he is raising his game to another level, at least from what I've seen in the first two games. And yes, you're right. It's 4 games in total, 2 games where he's played really, really well. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I was never one of these people out here who just believed that Darius Garland wasn't a good basketball player anymore. And I thought that was a little bit crazy for people to just kind of jump out to that stance when you think about really what had happened to him the last couple of years. There was still context there.
And you know, I'm just trolling on you on that one. And people, if they want to go check the tape from the series last year when we would talk about Darius Garland and how many times we would say,
him the benefit of the doubt a lot.
Guys, relax. This is not really who he is.
Yeah.
And so many people didn't want to hear it. Oh, it's an excuse. Dude, no. It's reality. It's life.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is helping Darius and this is going back to Kenny Atkinson being such an offensive guru, is just, my God, how much have we asked him to shoot more? And now he's having the confidence not only to pull up, but he's also catch shooting. Outlet passes up the floor when he's catching and shooting trail threes behind guys in transition. There's just so many opportunities for him to just get it up there. And when he gets it up there like that, and he's shooting the clip that he's capable of shooting, because he's been one of the best catch shooters in the NBA statistically, historically, and that's a proven fact. Same with Donovan Mitchell. Why do you think Donovan Mitchell's pulling up and taking some of these too? So that is a huge part of this as well, is how quickly he's getting the shot up. And again, he's back to making the reads, because if Jarrett Allen's the role threat that he's always been, and if Evan Mobley is doing what he's doing as a ball handler, there are just options for the defense to have to pay attention to, and that opens up the game for everybody on the floor.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know there's a number of other things that we want to get into. I think one thing that has stood out over these first couple games as well has been the kind of minutes allocation that we've seen from Kenny Atkinson.
Gosh.
People used to get on JB Bickerstaff all the time, just about the idea that he played Donovan Mitchell a little too excessively minutes wise, and that maybe led to him sustaining some injuries late in the regular season, and he was playing like 35, 36, 37 minutes at times, and it was a little bit too much. And Kenny has been adamant about making sure all these guys are sort of hovering between anywhere between 28 and 33 minutes is kind of the sweet spot.
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful thing when you talk about trying to get longevity out of these guys. You talk about load management, this hopefully cuts down on the need for those types of things and guys missing games. And it also just prolongs their health and their ability to be effective for you late in the year when you need them most. And obviously come playoff time as well, when you're counting on them to be healthy and be able to play at a high level.
100%. Let me ask you one thing. Never mind. I won't ask you one thing. You took your headphones out.
No, go ahead. I'm still listening. I have one headphone in.
I was gonna ask you.
Okay.
Who do you think leads the Cavs in minutes, and how many minutes do they play?
I'm gonna guess that it. Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know that I've looked this up yet.
Yep. I just did, and that's why I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm gonna guess that it is. I'm going to guess it's Jarrett.
Incorrect. He is third on the team. I will say what it is. At 31.7 minutes per game, it is Evan Mobley. That was going
to be my next guess. I was going to say Evan, which makes sense because they've prioritized, obviously, everything with him.
But when you look around on this team and see how many people are averaging, like you said, in between that 15 to 20 range, it goes down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 guys. 10 guys are averaging 15 or more minutes, which tells me that Kenny's mixing and matching, and he's not just quote-unquote riding his horses the way that JB would do with the core four and play him 38 to 40 minutes a night. At least it seemed like. Kenny is very strategical with the way he uses his guys, and it's enough to where the core four is playing together, and it's also enough to where they're getting enough rest because they're being staggered. And the combinations we've seen so far have been Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. So I find that interesting that those two are kind of paired together like that. But what happens when you have a guy like Caris who's playing his ass off right now? Caris LeVert is having a terrific season. And it's not even just statistically. It's about how he's defending, getting his hands on loose balls, getting the extra possession for them. It's just been terrific. George Niang's having a good year so far. Sorry, guys. I know you guys hate him, but he's having a good, solid year defending.
It's because of his playoff performance last year. That's why.
Yeah, no, he's been a big part of the team. I don't know if you watched the other night in New York, but pivotal stretch where the Cavs were swinging the momentum, he went and it wasn't even an offensive rebound. New York got an offensive rebound or a defensive rebound, and he got his hands in the cookie jar, poked it away, and then had a little layup for a couple of points. And that right there. Those are the plays that don't show up on the box score, and they're huge for connectivity for this team. He hit a big corner three on one of my favorite plays of the game. I have to mention this one. Sam Merrill being used as a screener in the middle of the floor for Evan Mobley. Sam pops out to the left wing, gets a pass from Evan. Karras cuts, and then Sam throws a pass to the corner for Niang and hits three. That was a gorgeous. I don't think we've ever seen a wrinkle like that in this offense. And that's a good sign for them because that means they're just popping the ball around. Dean Wade didn't even have a good game on Monday. He as far as a shooting performance goes, but he was still big on defense. That's the thing. That's Kenny's holy grail right there is you got to impact winning in some way. It doesn't have to be with points. It can be defense. It can be scrapping for loose balls. It can be going out and getting offensive rebounds, which Dean did do. You got to play a role in some aspect and impact winning.
I apologize, by the way, if I am bringing, if people are seeing me on my phone while I'm doing this. I'm trying to sort of, I saw Tom S's comment. He said, I need a better microphone. I don't think it's the microphone because this is actually like a really good microphone. It's just about figuring out like what settings are right in cohesion with StreamYard. And Spence and I have this problem every single week. We're trying to sort of figure this all out. So I'm kind of like listening to myself on the stream at the same time as listening to Spencer. So if you see me on my phone, that is why. I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful to you, Spence. I just want you to know that. Another thing, though, that we wanted to highlight, because I think towards the end of his tenure especially, the people were very critical of JB Bickerstaff for his maybe inability to make in-game adjustments, or maybe he was a little too slow to make in-game adjustments at times. I'm curious, Spence, like, again, only 4 games. We haven't seen a ton yet, and we haven't seen a ton in terms of this team like being sort of in stress or high stress situations. I do think like what happened in New York the other night, you're down 13 points, you rally, like that was the sign that was a good sign against a team that, like I said, has tended to give you some fits and cause some problems for you. The fact that they rallied against the Knicks and then obviously pulled off the win was massively impressive. But what are some of the just early signs of in-game adjustments or things that Kenny Atkinson is kind of willing to do differently when, certain things aren't working or he needs like a spark from his team?
I'm glad you asked that because there's actually 2 examples from the game on Monday that I think people need to understand how a coach works in that situation. It was clear from the jump that one of their most reliable guys so far this year, Ty Jerome, he's been terrific early on in the season. He didn't have it in New York. What happened? After his first shift, he didn't play much. He only played, I think, 9 minutes. Okay? That's an adjustment there. He went to Sam Merrill. Isaac Okoro, same thing. He came in for a couple shifts, didn't really have it against them in this situation. So what did he do? He leaned on Karis LeVert. He leaned on George Niang. Some of these other guys, some of the depth that they have, trying to push the right buttons. Did you hear what he did at halftime? Did you read what he did at halftime?
I did not get a chance to see it, no.
Okay, so on one possession in the first half, the Cavs got out-rebounded 3 times on one possession. It was an offensive rebound. I think Josh Hart got 2 of them, and Mikal Bridges got another. Maybe it was the wrong guy, but they got 3 offensive rebounds on one possession. Kenny Atkinson didn't say a word to him in the locker room except show him one clip. It was that clip. After that, the Cavs out-rebounded him in the second half, and they only allowed 2 offensive rebounds. That tells me right there, there's a connection there. They know, and the guys know. It's really hard to keep a guy like Josh Hart off the glass, but they knew right there, then and there, that wasn't good enough. So what did they do? They changed it up. They cleaned it up. And Evan Mobley was a man possessed in the second half. You can look at Jarrett Allen. I'm going to save that, actually, because I have a rant on Jarrett Allen saved up for this podcast. But he was terrific. Everybody attacking the offensive glass, going for loose balls. Like I said earlier, Karras and George playing a pivotal role in that. Sam Merrill doing a decent job, actually, defensively and knocking down a couple. So, again, it's a team effort, and it sounds so damn cliche to say that, but it really is a team effort, and I think that's fun because we're so used to two guys being ball dominant and having to carry the load, and that's not the case so far this year.
I think it's okay if you want to give us your Jarrett Allen rant now. I think you opened the door for that. Why not? I mean,
okay,
you've been chomping at the bit to get this off your chest, so why not give it to it?
Why, when we talk about the core forward, do we not talk about this guy? I have no idea what it's going to take for him to gain anyone's respect in the Cavs verse, outside of that building, I should say, or the NBA universe. Because, dude, okay, this is a guy who was just nominated for Eastern Conference Player of the Week. Don't know if you saw that. He's been a double-double machine. He's insanely good at setting screens. His rolling brings all the attention in the world. His finishing is insane. Did you see the dunks he had in DC? The one dunk looked like Dr. J. He literally side slammed it.
He could be
on the run.
Dr. Jarrett instead.
Dr. J.A. There you go. We can
I like that. Dr. J.A. I like that.
Dr. J.A. Do you see the work he's putting in with his footwork when he's driving off the catch and Euroing on guys? He's just been so reliable for them all this time. And because he had one bad series 2 years ago, he has this reputation that he's soft.
Well,
and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it because last year he proved he wasn't. And then he got elbowed in the ribs, and then he was done. Well, that happens.
And it didn't help that JB Bickerstaff, I know he gave like a 5-minute rant about JA last week when he was in town.
Check it out on our YouTube page. You'll see.
Yes, you can find it there. That's a good little plug there. But it didn't help that he kind of made those comments about Luka playing through injuries and how guys should play through injuries. I mean, I understand JB was trying to sort of do damage control there, but like it didn't seem great that you were saying that after you had a player who sat out with a rib injury. And I also think like the way the Cavs,
see, there he goes again, making the drama.
The way that the Cavs designated the injury didn't help either. They were very vague about it.
Yeah.
They said it was like a contusion, and I think
rib
that
contusion.
led people sort of like, well, if he only has a bruise, like why isn't he playing more? And then we come to find out that it was like a crack in his rib, and he sort of told that whole story at media day, like what was going on in reality and the problems that it was giving him. So like I think all those things didn't do him any favors because it was like he had proven, like you said, that he wasn't this soft player anymore. And then I think people then sort of ended the playoffs feeling like, well, this guy can't even play with a rib contusion. Maybe he is still soft. And then JB throws, gasoline on the fire. So it was just kind of like, it didn't go the way anybody planned. But I do think you're right. Like he had sort of dispelled those rumors in that opening series until the injury. And he has been phenomenal. And I don't think people realize too, like, again, as we talk about fits and who works together on this team and who doesn't, splitting up J.A. and Mobley maybe become something they have to visit at some point. I don't think we'd have to trend towards that right now because it looks like they're playing really, really well together in sort of different roles at the moment. But like, I don't think people realize how important Jarrett Allen is to this team just in general, and like how that changes the math on a lot of things that they want to do. If you were to move on from Jarrett Allen, it's not so simple as like move on and plug somebody else in there. Like he is almost like the heart and soul of this team without even really knowing it because he's such a soft-spoken guy.
And that's the other thing too. Like I only just talked about the offensive consistency and reliability and even improvement. We're not talking about defense where him and Evan have been one of the most intimidating and posing forces defensively around the rim for 3 years now, 3.5 years. That right there is hard to split up because that's a part of your identity. And you just have to find that three that's going to make it work. And to credit to Dean Wade, because it seems like he really fits well with them and allows a little bit more of kind of knowing their spots and how to kind of control the game that way by altering shots at the rim, blocking shots, whatever it may be. Because Evan's still on help side defense, and he's still improving as a rim protector in general, as an anchor. But Jarrett's the same way. Jarrett's a little bit more direct too, and that defensively is just so good for the Cavs because it allows them to get out into transition when a block happens or when a shot's altered. They're going to rebound and push after that. You can stagger them, yeah, sure, that's fine. You have more of a spread lineup with Evan Mobley. You have more of a big lineup with Jarrett Allen. But Jarrett deserves so much more respect, and I know it's come prove it, play it time, and they're right. But I feel like he's just getting way too much of crap, just because of a past reputation that's not, he improved from that and still gets treated the same way he did after the New York series, and it makes no sense to do that. By the way, Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will also say the same thing. Hit the like button and subscribe button for us. You're muted, Sal. Sal.
Okay,
Sal. I called you Sal. I wanted to say Pal
so
and Spencer at the same time.
In real time, does this actually sound better than even before?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I've been messing with these. I've been doing all kinds of different things.
He's obsessing over it. I feel terrible.
I am. I mean, Tom called me out. I'm like, I got to figure this out, man. I can't.
That sounds good. No, that sounds good there.
Do I sound better now?
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right. I think I might have resolved any issues then. So
perfect.
I guess I'll let Tom be the judge. Do I sound better now, Tom, than I was before? You let me know. So that brings us to, obviously, the matchup tonight. Lakers in town. We know that's always a big deal. When you have LeBron. I think I'm a little too loud now. Am I coming in crackly to you?
No, not at all.
Hold on. Okay.
You can hear the fiddling.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Do you not sound good to you?
Oh no.
Gotta love.
Hold on.
No, it says sound is good.
I can't hear you now.
Oh, that's great.
That's not good. Hold on.
Oh my Lord. Okay, I will start the preview here. The Cavs welcoming in
real time.
It's fine.
What the heck?
The Cavs are welcoming in
Hold on.
Oh boy.
All right.
Lordy Lou. The technical difficulties. Yes, I can.
I can't hear you, Spence.
Oh my goodness.
I have no idea what you're saying right now. This is ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
I guess I'm going to let you talk about for a second here.
Yes, I will. I will do that. I'll mute.
What they bring to the table from a matchup standpoint. Why this matchup is going to bring some challenges. Obviously, we know the threat that LeBron is, the threat that AD is. But you do that, and I'm going to leave the studio, and I'm going to come back in.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we're going to wing it alone. No, it's a good matchup tonight. Lakers losing their first game of the season the other night in Phoenix, and they've been looking better. I mean, JJ Redick's been a pretty solid. Let's see how to take this off real quick. I haven't done that. JJ's been a really solid addition for them, and he's brought in kind of a similar strategy, I guess, for them as far as just attacking the offensive glass, getting out in the open floor, and letting guys be themselves. Austin Reeves has been terrific this year. I really want to highlight Rui Hachimura, who's upped his rebounding average by 4 this year so far, and is looking really solid as far as his field goal percentage goes, and just playing that kind of tertiary role that they've been looking for. You know what you're going to get with LeBron James every night, but Anthony Davis, my goodness, has he been terrific this year. Just hitting the glass, being himself with the mid-range shot, taking some more threes. He's looking really solid, and I feel like their team is not as deep as Cleveland's, but they're definitely better than in past years, just with the strategical change. I think personally, on the night that the Cavs are going to win the bench minutes by a large margin, just because of how deep they are, and as we were mentioning earlier, Karis LeVert, George Niang, Sam Merrill, all those guys have been huge integral parts. Ty Jerome, I think, will have a nice bounce back game against LA. Should be really solid for the bench bunch tonight. So looking forward to seeing that. And then we obviously know what the pivotal story of the evening is going to be with Bron and Bronny coming in, and that should be fun to see just in person, knowing and you know, seeing Bron's son around the locker room when I was covering this team. It was just terrific to just see him grow up kind of in the locker room, and knowing that now he's going to step on the floor with his father at the place that he built, essentially.
So I'm kind of improvising here. I'm listening to
I
the
just talked.
stream
I
so
just.
I can know what you're saying, and then I'm responding as best I can.
That's fair.
Because I don't know what's going on with my microphone, but we'll get to the bottom of this after the fact. The only other thing I think we should get into, because and I didn't catch everything that you said, and I was like out of the room, in the room, trying to mess with things. But I know, knowing Spence, I know he gave some great analysis in terms of what this matchup sort of brings to the table, what this is going to look like tonight. And obviously, all of us in Cleveland pretty excited about any time LeBron is back in town, what that kind of brings. I am curious what you think the reception is going to be, because I do think we're going to get some Bronny and Bron minutes together. Like, I just think they're here in Cleveland. There'll be some moment in the game where they put them both out there. What type of reception do you think those two are going to get together? Because I'm under the consensus it's going to probably be positive because it's Cleveland, but we know that is kind of a controversial topic for some. The fact that he's on the Lakers and he got this sort of pass to the NBA because of who his dad was.
Well, we did see last week the JB was pretty much received in a heartworthy fashion, so that's good, and that gives me hope. But no, I don't think. Now, LeBron's not going to get booed. Bronny's not going to get booed. They're going to get cheered. Their family's probably going to be in attendance. That's going to be a wholesome moment just for the James gang. It's gonna be received well. I don't see anything going awry in that situation. But I will say this: it'll probably be a 5 or 6 minute stint with them on the floor together, kind of like it was at the opening game of the season against Minnesota, and after that, probably won't see him. And the reason this can happen now, it's October 30th. The G League season has not begun yet. So still part of the active roster, still able to do this. So while you can do this, while you can get this moment, get the photo ops, all that stuff out of the way, then you can see Bronny go down to the G League and develop.
All right. I'm going to go figure out what the hell's going on with my microphone. But I do agree with you, Spence. I think here in Cleveland, I don't think they have to worry about any sort of negative reception. I don't even really know what type of reception I guess they were home, so it was probably positive from Lakers fans. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And I'm sure we'll have plenty to discuss after the game about this matchup. Spence and I will have a post game reaction video as per usual. And we'll sort of react to whatever plays out tonight between the Lakers and the Cavaliers. It's a big game. We know what kind of looms down the stretch here or coming up here. You have Orlando on Friday at home, at Milwaukee, then home against Milwaukee.
Tough
New
stretch.
Orleans next week as well, and then Golden State. So sort of an interesting stretch of games where you play some pretty competitive teams, particularly in the Eastern Conference. I think that Knicks game really started a stretch where you get to sort of get a real test of this new offense in the Kenny Atkinson era. And I think that continues tonight with the Lakers. So we encourage you to like, follow, subscribe, and review the Courtside with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI podcast. You can find us obviously at the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel. And we implore you to jump in there and comment like many of you have done throughout this show. We also encourage you to head on over to si.com/NBA/Cavaliers, where you can read all of our content covering this team each and every single day, each and every single week throughout the season, and stay in tune over there as well. For Spence, I'm Spencer German. We'll be back with you guys later tonight with some post-game reaction to the Lakers and the Cavaliers. But until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you guys soon.